Hey everybody, Mungo Dark Matter here, and today I thought I'd show you how to write a song in key and transpose a song into a different key on a piano roll in a DAW without having to know music theory. And actually you'll learn just a little bit of music theory in this, but I'm going to show you a quick way to do it and an easy way to do it, like if you've never played an instrument before and you want to get into computer music but you don't know about keys or anything. This is just a little trick for you. This also works if you're using a piano roll and you do know how to play an instrument, but you don't know how to play a keyboard really. All right, so what we're going to start out here, this is a piano roll right here, and this is in most DAWs. This is FL Studio right here, but it's going to look very similar in other DAWs no matter what one you're using. So this is a C major scale right here. Now in the Western scale we have 12 notes, but we generally only use 7 of them, and some scales actually use less, like for example the pentatonic scale. And we call them octaves because there are 7 notes, and the 8th note is, the next octave up, and that's like the eighth step or the 8th note up, which is a repeat of the starting note, but it's higher up on the scale. So this is a piano keyboard. This is a C right here. This is C, the 5th octave, which is actually C4 is middle C on a keyboard. So if we go up through the scale and we start over again, we get to C6, which is the next octave. And so C6 is like twice the frequency of C5. And so that's what makes the octave. So that's a little bit of a theory right there, which you may or may not have known, but it helps to at least know that when you're navigating around. Now on the keyboard, you'll see white keys and black keys. The white keys are what are called natural notes. Those are neither sharp nor flat. And the black keys can either be flat or sharp, and it's kind of relative, really. Like, for instance, this is the note C here. This black key above it would be C sharp, but it is also D flat because the next white key is D. So if you're going up or down, usually if they say it's C sharp, it's going up the scale, and if you're going down the scale, it's a D flat. But they're equivalent, and that's all you need to really kind of remember. But we really don't need to pay attention to that in this example, because I'm going to show you how to kind of use the piano roll to do the calculations for you. All right, so we're in C major right here. And C major is all of the white keys. And if I bring up this graphic I have right here, you'll see I have C major and D major next to each other right here. So C major starts here on the C. This is the first white key. The next white key is D. There is a black key in between the two, which would be a sharp or a flat. And then, so there's a space here where the black key is on the piano roll. So this is the next white key. There's a black key, so there's a space. There are 2 more white keys, E and F. There's a black key, so we skip a space. So this is a pattern right here. And this is the major scale pattern. And you may or may not have heard this before, but people will go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And what they're talking about is that since we have 12 notes in the full chromatic scale, that's all the notes. The chromatic scale is all the notes. We actually, a full step is 2 notes. Is 2 notes. That's a full step. And so when you have a black key, that makes it a full step. So we start at C, and this black key is another half step. So it's a full step in between. Now there are 2 keys on here, the E and the F, and the B and the C have no sharp or flat in between them. And so when we create a major scale, what happens is we go C, D, E, F, and there's no black key here. So this is the pattern that people tend to memorize when they're learning music theory and such. But it's real easy to come up with if you're using a piano roll. You don't have to remember it. You just have to remember C major. All the white keys are played. That's C major. Now to find the next scale, say we want to go to D major. What we do is we just shift select all of these in whatever piano roll you have and shift them all up. So if we shifted the C up to D, you'll see there's D, E, and F is sharp. It keeps the same pattern. And that's all that's really going on. When you have a scale and you have the pattern, if you keep the pattern the same, so if it's a whole step apart, you keep it a whole step apart. If it's a half step apart, you keep it a half step apart. So if we go back to our piano scale here, they're red right now because I have them all selected. So I can actually move up like this if I select all of the notes and move to D, and everything is shifted up. And it gives us the correct flats and sharps. If I go to E, it shows me the correct sharps and flats. So if we went back here to D, and we'll look at the scale again blown up, you'll see that the C is sharp and the F is sharp. And if you look that up, if you take the time to look that up, that is actually correct. And so we're using the piano scroll to figure this out for us. So that is the way you can kind of change the scale. So if you wrote using all of the white keys and you start on C and resolve on C, that is the C major scale. And so let's say we wrote something using all white keys. The main thing you have to remember is you really want to start on the C and end on the C in general in a music phrase. That's not a hard and fast rule. You don't always have to do that, but it tends to sound better and resolve better. So you could write using all white keys and just make sure you start out on the C and end on the C, and you're going to be in C major. Now, if you want to go to a minor scale, so we can still figure this out because we know all of the white keys in C, and let's move this back down to C. All the white keys in C are C major. But there's something called the relative minor, and the relative minor of C is A minor. And all that means is a fancy way of saying all the notes that are in C major are in C minor, so they have the same sharps and flats. So let's move this down so that we're at A. So we're going to move the bottom note, since we're moving the bass note. And that's what you have to remember, the bass note. If you know you're in C, if you know you're in C major and you want to move up to D major, you have to move up one full step. So if you highlight everything in your piano scroll and move the whole thing one step or two of these spaces, you're going to be in D major. Now the advantage to that is if you have a lot of samples, or you have some samples in there that you're using and you know what key the sample is in. A lot of times when you get samples and loops and stuff, it will tell you what key it's in. Then you can write something using your piano roll and use a MIDI instrument, and you can write it in C and then shift it to the correct key. So if you have a bunch of loops that are in D, you can write a little melody or a little rhythm or whatever you want using all the white keys in C, and then move it up to two half steps or one full step, and you'll be in D major. And if that's what your loops are in, you're in key. So you can do that with any key. You just have to figure out how many steps up and down you have to move it. So now if we want to actually go into a minor key, like I said, A minor has all the same notes. Now we've shifted this down, and as you can see here, There's some sharps. There's a C sharp in here. There's an F sharp. There's a G sharp in here. And that's because this is actually the A major scale, because we've taken the same pattern and moved it down. But to put it into the minor, we just need to make sure all of the keys are natural. None of them are sharps or flats. So if we take this C, oops, I had to click off of here. If we take this C and move it down one, so it's a regular C, and if we go up here and take this F sharp and make it an F, get rid of the F sharp, and if we take this G and make it a G, we have all the same notes. But this is now the minor scale. You can see the pattern's now changed, and the pattern is now whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. This is the minor scale. There are other different scales. There's like a pentatonic scale. There's a bunch of different other scales. But the two major ones you usually deal with are A major, or not A major, the major and the minor scales. So now we have a minor scale. So if we want to put something into C minor, we can just highlight everything here. And then we can move this up to C, and it's automatically put the correct notes in there. You see here it says that it's D sharp, but it's also E flat, so it's really E flat there. And you can see it says G sharp. That's also G sharp's also A flat. As long as you have the correct pattern, you'll be able to move it up and down. So if you want to write something in minor, use A as your root and use all white keys, and then you're in the A minor key. And then if you want to shift it into a different minor key, you just have to move all of the notes up at once, as many steps as you need to get to the next scale. So that's basically an easy way that you can move your key around. And so if you just remember that you can resolve or end and start on C, writing a melody or a rhythm or anything, and you're in C major, and you use all the white notes on the piano roll or on a piano keyboard or on just a regular MIDI keyboard. Or if you want to write in minor, you can just write in A minor and change the key by using all the white keys and starting and resolving on A. You will end up in those correct keys, and you'll be able to shift them very easily. I'm Mungo Dark Matter, and this has been Dark Matters, and whatever you do, enjoy the day, and I will see you soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.